Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast may contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, be sure to check out our show on our YouTube channel. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
Long have we waited, and now this final chapter will be our undoing. My name is David, and I fly now. And the man who's had a bad feeling about this since The Force Awakens, Joe.
What's up, partner?
This is episode 149, and in this show we will discuss the older we get, the more cinematic legends we lose. This week's RIP is for Danny Aiello, and this one hurts. Top Gun Maverick gets a new trailer, and holy smokes! Christopher Nolan's Tenet gets a more fleshed out trailer. Joe and I discuss. And then, 42 years, a bad prequel, a comical new trilogy ends with the most amazing tap dancing done by a writer-director. Joe and I bid farewell to the Skywalker saga with our review of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Did I wear my heart on my sleeve for that one?
Oh, it's finally here.
Yeah. And you know what? Let's start with the sad stuff before we get to the sad stuff. So it's good to see you, sir. It has definitely been a while, and I guess let's get it on.
You ever read Meister Eckhart? No. How'd you get your doctorate without reading Eckhart? Relax. Eckhart saw hell too. You know what he said? He said the only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't let go of your life. Your memories, attachments, they burn them all away. But they're not punishing you, he said. They're freeing your soul. Relax. So the way he sees it, if you're frightened of dying and you're holding on, you'll see devils tearing your life away. But if you've made your peace, then the devils are really angels, freeing you from the earth. It's just a matter of how you look at it, that's all. So don't worry, okay? Okay?
Born June 20th, 1933 in Manhattan. I mean, you know, Danny Aiello was like a frickin' New Yorker from the first time you saw him. Okay? Danny Aiello has 105 movies to his name. You know what's funny is I say that, and when I saw that number, the first thing I thought of was, that's it? It feels like he's been in so many movies. So many different movies. His first real, he played the part of Tony Rosato in The Godfather Part 2. And he did some TV series, Kojak, things like that. But probably his biggest break was as Papa in the Papa Don't Preach video for Madonna. No, I'm kidding.
No, but you're absolutely right. I mean, that was sort of a thing. Well, it wasn't the first thing he was in, but I remember when that came out, everybody kind of going, "Oh, wait a minute, that guy."
Yeah, he was definitely one of the kings of Hey That Guy. He actually got his real big break with the 1981 Fort Apache, The Bronx. And he did a movie with Jackie Chan and everything like that. Probably another one of his big roles was Once Upon a Time in America. Do you remember Once Upon a Time in America, the Sergio Leone movie?
I certainly do.
That's one of my favorite movies and one that we should cover at some point. But, I mean, he was just always around at some point or another. Purple Rose of Cairo is another one that he's definitely well known. Radio Days. But for me, you know what my favorite part of his that he did? I mean, granted, you know, he was in The January Man. He was in The Pickup Artist, Moonstruck, Man on Fire, Harlem Nights, Hudson Hawk.
Yeah.
Hudson Hawk. Okay? He was in frickin' Hudson Hawk. I will never forget that song that him and frickin' Bruce Willis sing, "Oh, we ain't got a barrel of money." For me, probably like, and this is to me one of the most underrated movies of the '90s. It still kills me how when I tell people about this movie that nobody remembers it.
I have a hunch we got this in common, but go ahead.
Jacob's Ladder.
You got it.
That movie is an astounding movie, and he was beautifully perfect in that film in so many ways.
Yeah.
It is truly one of the most underrated movies of all time, and he was just outstanding in that. Another one, Leon, The Professional, 2 Days in the Valley. I mean, this guy was working right up until the end. Okay, he literally just finished a movie called One Moment, and he was supposed to do another movie called The Italy Boys, but unfortunately, he died rather suddenly in New Jersey on December 12th, 2019. And, I mean, let's talk about one of his other big movies that he did that he gets a lot of credit for. Would have to be Do the Right Thing.
There you go.
That was a huge, huge movie for him. Spike Lee, upon hearing about his passing, referred to him as his brother. And I gotta tell you, Spike Lee don't use that word very often, so I think that's kind of huge,
Yeah.
if you ask me. Seriously, what I'm going to tell you to do is go to IMDb, look up Danny Aiello, pick a movie. Okay? Pick a movie. Hell, even The Protector with Jackie Chan. Dumbass flick, but still fun. And honestly, if you're going to pick a movie first, start with Jacob's Ladder. Please. Because it does not get the love that it deserves. I'm going to miss that son of a bitch.
Your instructor is one of the finest pilots this program has ever produced. His exploits are legendary. What he has to teach you may very well mean the difference between life and death.
First thing I noticed in the new Top Gun trailer is, as I'm watching it, I'm thinking to myself, man, the special effects for all these plane shots are really amazing. And then I come to find out that Tom Cruise only agreed to do the movie if all the plane shots were not CGI. And I'm like, holy crap! This movie just went way the hell up in my estimation just for the cinematography alone. And the fact that the movie's going to be shot in IMAX. I don't care what this movie's about. I'm going to go just to watch it.
Yeah. The trailers are definitely selling themselves on the stunt flying. I felt like the first one was very clearly about that, and this one even more so, because I kind of felt like this trailer, which should have been, again, a more fleshed out, clearer picture of what the film's about, I felt like it gave us less of the actual story and more stunts, which is fine. Mm-hmm. I feel like they kind of, they might be onto something with that idea. So maybe it's better that we don't know about the story. Maybe the surprise will be nice. But yeah, I think they've got my money.
They've got my IMAX money. That's where they really got me. Yeah. It's like, I go to movies nowadays. It's like, do I want to spend the extra? Ooh, excuse me. Do I want to spend the extra $5 or $6 on an IMAX? No, this movie's getting it for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty amazing, and honestly, Tom Cruise. I don't know. Did he sell his soul to the devil? Actually, I don't know, but it's amazing that this guy can pick up this role and run with it at this late in the game, and it's believable. So the tone is great. I love the look of it. So again, I feel like this would be something I normally would be just like rolling my eyes out of my head about, but honestly, looks pretty good.
when you have great cinematography, absolutely, I agree.
We all believe we'd run into the burning building. But until we feel that heat, we can never know. You do. You chose to die instead of giving up your colleagues.
At one point in Avengers Endgame, Ant-Man refers to their attempt at going back in time to try to get the different stones from Thanos as a time heist. As I was watching the new trailer for Tenet, the one that's actually fleshing out more of the story, the first thing I thought to myself was Christopher Nolan saw that scene and said, "Hold my beer." Because I'm not 100% sure exactly what's going on in this flick, but I'm intrigued.
Same here. Honestly, I was sort of watching it, and it was kind of giving me like, there's a certain kind of sci-fi thriller. I saw it most recently with Upgrade. Remember that film?
Yes.
And I kind of felt even that. Do you remember? I'm sure you will. A sci-fi movie from the 80s called Runaway with Tom Selleck.
Of course, I remember Runaway with Tom Selleck. One of the big selling points of that movie was it was Gene Simmons from Kiss's first major role since taking the makeup off.
Yeah. They kind of have that really. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but obviously it's a noirish sci-fi, but not as noirish as like a Blade Runner. It's a little hard to put my finger on it, but when I was watching this, I was getting that vibe. And then when I was getting it with the guys, people going backwards, etc., the time going back and forth, I was like, oh, all right, I see where we're going. And then quite frankly, once I saw Christopher Nolan's, I went, oh, now I get it. Once I saw his name, I was like, I see where we're going. Okay. So, yeah, once again, color me impressed. I'm ready for it.
Robert Pattinson is basically the second actor in this movie. And I got to tell you, I was looking at him for a couple of seconds in this and, and I was thinking to myself, well, that's our new Batman. And I was like, okay, I guess I could see him as our new Batman. He does definitely carry himself a certain way. I like the look of this flick. I am kind of an unabashed Christopher Nolan lover. I mean, yes, I know I had my issues with Dark Knight Rises, and that's completely a whole other topic that we've already covered. But on a whole, I've enjoyed each of Christopher Nolan's movies. I love The Prestige. I loved Memento. I loved Inception, of course, Interstellar. Even Interstellar with its weird little twist there at the end. Love conquers all. You know what? I'm okay with that. But I'm in. I'm absolutely in. I'm not 100% sure where he's going with this, and frankly, when it comes to Nolan movies, I think I have just enough information to know that I don't want to watch any more trailers.
Very true, very true. I'm with you. Color me interested, and we might have to talk about this.
It's an instinct. A feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
But I do.
Surviving resistance faces the First Order once more in the final chapter of the Skywalker saga. Written by Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams, based on a story by Derek Connolly, Colin Trevorrow, Chris Terrio, and J.J. Abrams, based on characters created by George Lucas, directed by J.J. Abrams, Star Wars, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Joe, I would like to ask that we do things a little bit differently this time around, and I want to just go right into spoilers. So I would just like to get your impressions, your very, very quick impressions, and I want to get right into it, if that's okay. Because there's a lot to cover, and I think we need to move forward fast.
Oh boy, I you know what? I don't even know if I can give my initial impressions without spoiler talk, because if somebody literally heard my first impressions and shut this off, they'd be baffled, mystified, and well, why don't I just say it, and then we'll just roll the dice.
All right. Well, this is spoiler talk now, folks. Good night. After you, sir.
Well, here, I'll tell you what. Here's my spoiler-free comments. I liked it. I sat there, I watched it, and when it was over, I turned to my girlfriend and I said, "What'd you think?" And she said, "What'd you think?" I said, "I liked it." And I think it was kind of at that point that I realized that The Last Jedi broke me, I think, even worse than I actually realized. Like literally destroyed Star Wars for me in a way that was I could never recover from. And honestly, I mean, we have been saying it all along that there's literally no way that they can fix this trilogy in any way, shape, or form that's satisfactory. In no way. So honestly, I don't even think I understood myself just how low my expectations actually were. Like, I mean, they were just rock bottom. I expected nothing. So I literally watched this movie and I was judging it simply as, is what I'm watching mildly entertaining, and did they do the best job they possibly could have with the dumpster fire they were handed? So my judgment of this film is so weirdly tainted that I don't even know if I can give it a fair assessment. But I will say this, and then I will end my spoiler-free commentary. If you saw the first two and you liked them, I'm sure this one will do you just fine. If you have not seen the first two and you're wondering, should I bother? The answer is a wholehearted don't bother. Just don't bother. So with that, why don't we jump into spoilers and you can have at it, and then we'll sort out my thoughts on this.
I liked it too. And in full disclosure, I was spoiled on this movie last month. And those spoilers were 93% accurate. There is ridiculousness in this. There is... the best way I can describe this movie is thusly. J.J. Abrams passed the baton to Rian Johnson with, a little checklist of, hey, this is how I feel that the story is going to go. Rian Johnson, as we have discussed before, wiped his ass with that particular thing that J.J. Abrams gave him. And that's, even going if he actually gave a list to Rian Johnson, who the hell knows, and just went off and did his own thing. Which, if he was doing a standalone Star Wars movie, I'm going to give the tiniest bit of credit to Mr. Rian Johnson. If he was doing a standalone Star Wars movie set in the Star Wars universe, might have been interesting. But you weren't. You're middle part of a trilogy that should have had a frickin' plan. Pass the baton back to J.J. Abrams. What does he do? He does 2 movies worth of material in one movie and condenses it down so damn much that it's almost like heart attack inducing in its pace. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but my first thought when I walked out of the theater was disappointing, but not because it was a bad movie. Disappointing because if they had had a plan, this could have been something. That's what really got me.
Yeah.
And that's my spoiler-free review.
Yeah, I think that there is no way to walk out of this film without the glaring words going round and round in your mind, wasted opportunity. Like, shockingly wasted. I mean, and I'll even say this. Now, again, when I said I liked it, I was kind of being mildly tongue-in-cheek, but not totally, because, again, there were things in this film that were working. There were moments in this film, relatively early on, that, by the way, Dave is sipping Southern Comfort. I wish you could see this. I was, like, there was a part of me early on when I was saying to myself, you know what? Too little, too late. And then, because I'm watching this, when I finally saw all the characters together, I was saying to myself, now, again, this is what they should have started out with. We shouldn't be getting this so late in the day. Poe is finally starting to come into his own and actually be a character. And there were moments when he was talking, frankly, and there were things that happened in the film, by the way, that was giving me more of a Raiders of the Lost Ark vibe than a Star Wars vibe. And I felt like his character. At one point he says, oh, we got to go here. Oh, I had a little trouble in that system. I kind of had a flashback of Indiana Jones, frankly. But anyway, while the characters were all together with Chewbacca, with R2-D2 and C-3PO finally being sort of in the movie, frankly, I was saying, now, okay, here we go. Like, what took you so long? Why was this so difficult? This seems to me like the most logical starting off point. The old characters blended with the new characters, et cetera, the next generation. That's what we should have had. But then as the film progressed, my thought went from too little, too late to just too late. Like, I can't call this movie too little by any stretch when it's like you said, it is stuffed to the gills with everything they're trying to do. They more or less tried to start a brand new storyline in this film. This film was trying to be the start of the trilogy, the end of the trilogy, while simultaneously trying to retcon everything that happened in The Last Jedi. I mean, there were so many lines in this thing that directly kind of tried to fix everything that happened in the last movie. I mean, we joked when we saw the trailer. He's fixing the mask. They fixed the lightsaber. This whole movie is going to be them trying to fix what came in the last movie, and that's exactly what this film was. Trying desperately to come up with something new. I mean, seriously. First of all, the fact that Palpatine is even in this, I said to myself, well, of course, because, again, Rian Johnson decided to kill off his villain in the last one. Who's the villain then? Who's the villain in this movie then? Because you knew from the last one, from the last two, frankly, but especially from the last one, that this whole stupid Reylo love thing is going to have to come to a conclusion. By the way, Kylo Ren, like, basically, I told you, we talked about it before. I said the only way he will have to die in this film in a moment of self-sacrifice. And that is exactly what happened. Like, you saw that from a mile away. And honestly, when the film opened and in the first paragraph of the crawl, it says, Palpatine is back and he's doing X. I literally said out loud in the theater, good Lord. Like, I'm like, are you serious? Did you just really put that in the opening crawl? And I said to myself, well, obviously they have to make up for lost time. They have to start with this story kind of more or less. They have to hit the ground running. So I guess they don't have the time to introduce this development. They just stuck it in and said, this happened, let's go. Because again, they're trying to do a whole trilogy in one movie because they just wasted the first two. I mean, I mean, again, the first one it introduced you to characters, and that's really it. That's all it did. And then it punted and said, we'll be back. You know, every question that came up in the first movie, they said, we'll take care of it later. And then here comes Rian Johnson, the mischievous scamp that he is, just literally just took everything that they did in the first one and ruined it. Just ruined it. It was like it was like if you ever like mugged and then like humiliated just to add insult to injury. So here comes JJ going, well, what the hell am I going to do with this dumpster fire? So, I mean, that's really all this movie is. It is really just kind of an experiment to watch to see what they could do with this story to try to salvage it in the final moments. And that's kind of how I judged it, frankly. Not on its own merit, and certainly not as part of a trilogy, and certainly not as a climax to a 9-part magnificent saga. Well, maybe magnificent is not the right word, but
I was about to say you might be overstating it there, my friend.
Well, the opening, what should have been magnificent, yes, it's obviously gone down some strange paths, but there you go. So that
the prequel trilogies get their lumps, and their lumps are deserved. Okay, but one of the things consistently that we spoke about as we were reviewing the trilogies is that we see where you're going. We see why you're making the characters do all these things. You're just not telling it very well. You can deride the prequels all they want. At least they had a direction. At least they knew where they were going to go, and there was a consistency throughout the three. A weird consistency, but a consistency nonetheless. This new trilogy has none of that consistency. Now, some people will say, well, the original trilogies, they were only a trilogy in name only, and, their consistency went up and down. It's like, I completely disagree with you on that. Yes, fine. Maybe the original trilogy, Star Wars, Empire, Jedi, maybe they weren't originally intended as a trilogy of movies. But once the movie hit, there was a direction that they were going to be going in. Okay? And the characters themselves remained consistent throughout. Okay? Luke in this trilogy went from get off my lawn to, Yoda 2.0 when he pulls the X-Wing out of the water. And I'd love to know how the hell she managed to get that thing to work after it had been in the water for a couple of years. Lord knows how long it's been in there.
Well, I don't mean to jump in, but I kind of felt like I noticed that several times throughout this film. No matter how old of a ship, I almost feel like this is kind of like, it's almost like science fiction has committed to the idea that in the future, a ship can sit and rot somewhere for many, many years, either in sand or in water or whatever. It'll still run. Maybe they're built just that well. I don't know. But yes, I kind of felt like there was a couple times when a ship would start up and I'd be like, really? I don't know. Okay, but whatever.
They tried so hard to retcon Last Jedi that in a weird way, they kind of, because it's been sitting in the water. Where's the fuel? Where did she get the fuel from?
Which apparently is a thing now because the Last Jedi established it. Yeah,
exactly. And the Mandalorian is also using the whole fuel thing, but it uses it in a different way. There's a lot of leaps in logic in this movie that really, for example, the whole Return of the Emperor is him repeating the line that he says in Revenge of the Sith, and that's it. There's your explanation. The dark side is a path that, to things that are unnatural to some. And I'm kind of like, wow, really? That's it? That's what your thing is? Bad enough that you open the movie and the first frickin' line in the crawl is the dead speak. And all I could think to myself is, oh man, is that really a cool thing to say with Carrie Fisher?
Yeah, that's a good point too. By the way, the Carrie Fisher scenes, I thought a lot of it worked, and I thought there was a lot of it that just reminded me of remember when when Tony's mother died in The Sopranos,
I wish the Lord would take me. Yes.
and they had to CGI her back for just one scene in one episode,
Yeah.
and it was horrible. Even like the shadows on her face would alter from shot to shot, etc. And then the dialogue, like she would just say these random things, and Tony was trying to respond to them the best he could. I was getting that vibe a little bit here. But I will say that it was like there was a scene in there where she says something like, "Never underestimate a droid," and I kind of was like, that seemed kind of random. Was that one of the shots that they had of her from the last one they didn't use yet? And then, of course, later, Rey repeats it. So I was like, all right, points for making it fit, I guess. So, I don't
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems such a random line, but they tried to sort of finesse it. I was like, all right, points for trying.
I'll give it a little more points because... And this is, all right, I'm going to be honest here. I had 2 emotional moments in this movie. But the one really had nothing to do with the movie itself. It was just the bitter reminder of Carrie Fisher's death. When Leia died, I got emotional. I admit it.
Yeah.
Right? It was well done. It was very... respectful, I felt. And honestly, it's a little sad to me that of all the characters to get a good send-off from the original trilogy, it took the one who's actually dead to get the best send-off of all of them.
Yeah, well, that, I don't even want to go down that road because I was going to say, of course, because she's a female character, she had to have a pretty, magnificent, self-sacrificing, noble death. The other one's not quite as much. And honestly, I was a little, and again, like seriously, you say she's the one who's gone, but they seem to put the most emphasis on this character. But again, they had no choice because they bumped off Luke. So now suddenly we're going to retcon this whole thing about how Leia actually did study and did train in the Jedi arts. So now she can train Rey, and Rey can refer to her as Master. I don't think she ever referred to Luke as that. So yeah, okay, whatever, just odd.
Just for the record, the point where I actually started getting a little weepy-eyed was when Chewie started screeching.
Yeah. I knew that was where you were going because I had the same thing. I mean, that was, and again, a moment in the film when I just kind of mental check mark. Okay, guys, you got it right. As opposed to Leia walking right past Chewie when Han died. I mean, that was like, I kind of felt like you can't say that this movie isn't trying. I mean, this movie was
for sure
trying its little heart out to do things right and to not have those kinds of screw ups. So yeah, I mean, it fit. It really did. It made sense. But seriously, and I mean, even as I'm talking about Leia, I'm saying to myself, why would I even mention that when you have Star Destroyers that apparently grow out of the ground like potatoes? What the, like, I mean, that's what I'm sitting. I mean, I think I literally, I mean, that was sort of it. Like, remember when I said, like, the whole last one just broke me? Mm-hmm. Like, when things like that were happening, I was just sitting there like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, all right. Well, like the part, now, again, I'm so confused now by force powers. I mean, it can literally just do anything at this point, to the point where it's like, why can't Kylo Ren just teleport himself places? Apparently he can have a lightsaber duel with Rey, who's totally somewhere else, and apparently he can grab the necklace from her. She can, the Darth Vader helmet drops where he is. I'm like, then why can't they just teleport to each other? I mean, why couldn't he just grab Rey and teleport? I mean, if he can grab the necklace, I mean, they kind of, and again, I gave him a little credit. They started with that silly BS in the last one when like the moisture on his hands would whatever. So it's like, all right, well, I guess they established it. They're going to run with it. Stupid though. But that's not, the one that when they, again, it was like when they go into the quicksand and they drop down,
or whatever the hell that was,
or whatever that was supposed to be, and they drop down to the tunnels underneath, which of course doesn't make sense, but I'm not even going to go down there. They go find the snake, this big super snake, right? And as soon as you saw her and you saw the wound, like you didn't even, like all you had to see was the fact that the thing was wounded. And you just went, all right, I see where this is going. She walks over, she heals the snake, and as she's doing it, you're like, okay, and this will come up again later. We establish this now so that when it comes up later, you'll buy it. But I'm just like, but again, I'm sitting there in the audience, I see yet another force power, and I'm just like, whatever. I'm fine. I don't care. It's like, it means nothing anymore. They show that, when they go to the Death Star, that again doesn't make any sense. The big chunk of the Death Star sitting in the ocean, and she goes to it, and they show her climbing up like one of the tall towers. And there's a couple scenes of her like, whoa, like she almost slips and falls, whatever. Like, oh, this is so scary. I'm like, weren't you levitating 10 minutes ago? What, weren't you just sitting in the woods levitating, or did I miss that? So I'm like, what does it matter if you fall? If you can levitate? I'm not understanding any of these force powers anymore. There's no rules. Nothing makes sense. I just like, well, fine, whatever. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, consistency is not its best thing. There's a lot of that throughout this entire movie. The fact that somehow the Emperor was able to build hundreds of these Star Destroyers with, Death Star style laser cannons on them.
Yeah.
Okay. Without anybody knowing about it. The fact that, okay, now that we found out about it, he's going to do a coordinated attack within 16 hours. The hell is that?
Yeah.
The hell is that? It's like, what? What do you mean he's going to do it? It's like I'm the genius. I'm Emperor Palpatine. I have waited 30 years to finally extract my revenge. I somehow managed to remanifest my spirit into a body in some way, shape, or form because the dark side is so unnatural or whatever the hell. Okay? In that time, I was able to get a bunch of groupies, is about all I can say. Or maybe they're just spirits of the dead Sith throughout the ages. I'm going to go with spirits of the dead Sith throughout the ages, because if it turns out that place is actually just a bunch of groupies hanging out, that would be ridiculous, but whatever. But maybe the groupies built the Star Destroyers. Who the hell knows? We don't know. There's no way to know, because they're just kind of rolling with these things that just, doesn't make any sense.
You're right. It doesn't make any sense. And again, they say, I'm watching this. I'm like, is he conjuring these things out of magic? Like, I mean, that was the implication I'm getting from this. Is like there's no big factory. There's no assembly line anywhere. He's literally sprouting them up out of the ground because he used the Force to magic up some Star Destroyers. And I'm going to myself, what the hell is that about? I mean, nothing about the Emperor made any sense to me. Nothing. I mean, as soon as he shows up, again, he re-manifests himself somehow. Which, by the way, I guess that means that Anakin Skywalker did not bring balance to the Force, the way Lucas said, when he throws the Emperor down the thing. That's technically when he brings. Okay, well, I guess that meant nothing. And now the Emperor is back. But now that he's back, I'm saying to myself, well, how do I know he's dead when Rey kills him? Like, how do I know he's dead now? Isn't he just gonna disappear and manifest himself later? And by the way, at the end of The Last Jedi, right? The thing I walked away from that movie with, I said, all right, so the First Order decimated the whole rebellion, whatever you call them, resistance, and I said, you have a handful of people left on the Millennium Falcon. So you're done. Like, this war is over, and you lost in a
Big
way
time.
that no war has ever been lost before. So, like, imagine World War II, where you literally killed every single solitary Nazi soldier everywhere, and you surrounded the building where Hitler was, and you killed pretty much everyone except for like maybe 12 people in the building. That's how that war ended. And the First Order was doing great, apparently. They were strong as ever. And I said back then, how is this ever how are we ever going to have a third movie now? Because there's no one left in on this side. The First Order is stronger than ever, etc. Well, now this one opens up where they make like 1,000 more Star Destroyers, fully staffed, etc. out of thin air. So now things are 10 times worse than they were at the end of The Last Jedi. So I'm like, well, how is this possibly going to go forward? But it does, and it happens with horses and stuff like that. So whatever. Like I said, I mean, everything with the Emperor. And by the way, why did he look the way he looked? He looked awful.
Because he's not completely, back. He's only been scheming and planning for 30 years.
But
he hasn't been able to completely bring himself back. I don't know, Joe.
It wasn't even that he looked bad in that way. I mean, bad in that, like, they didn't even make him up. Like he didn't have wrinkles, whatever. He just looked kind of like Ian McDermott with some makeup on. Like I mean, he looked like Marilyn Manson. Like he had this weird black lipstick on, and he just sort of looked like he had makeup, but not the prosthetic-y makeup to make him look old and wrinkly or whatever. So he didn't even look like the Emperor. And for all the work to get him back there, and half of the movie, by the way, was in pitch darkness. I couldn't even see what was going on half the time. So they got him with the constant strobe lights going across his face, and I'm like, what? Why are they not showing this guy? You brought the actor back. He should roughly be around the age right now, probably, to sort of pull this off. I mean, one of the genius things about it was that they cast him in Jedi, right, when he was a certain age. Then a couple of years later, they do the prequels. They bring the same guy back, and now he looks, like he looks like a younger version of what you saw before. So now he should kind of almost be the age where like a little bit of makeup would make him look exactly like the Emperor or something or other. But I don't know, whatever. I didn't understand any of that stuff.
I mean, I tried justifying it to myself. Force healing, for example, that's actually something that was established in the video games, so it's not completely out of the realm. But what's funny? One of the things leading up to the movie that a lot of people said was, they've got, if you're going to make Palpatine the villain all of a sudden, you got to explain how he's back. And it kills me that they really just felt that just repeating a line from Revenge of the Sith was all that it would take to explain why he was back.
Yeah.
It felt so much to me like, don't worry, somebody will write a comic or a prequel novel and it'll explain everything. It's like, thanks a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
That doesn't help any narrative, which is why I go back to the idea that this is two movies in one. That, like, literally, he wanted to reintroduce the idea that Palpatine was back for the second flick. Okay? And then just, like, completely reintroduce him by the third flick. If he had 2 flicks to do this in, you might have had something. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll never know. I'm sure there's some alternative universe that I could travel to maybe at some point in my life if I had a Rick and Morty style portal gun and just see, what it is that we lost.
Yeah.
It was very, very frustrating to me that basically it goes back to that one line, and this was the line that has bothered me since the first time I saw the movie. Okay? And it was the line that made me say, uh-oh, and said to me, if that's going to be the attitude of the filmmakers, we are not in for a good time. And that was the scene in Force Awakens where Maz Kanata is asked, where did you get that from?
Yeah.
And her response was, a good story for another time. This entire trilogy is a series of good stories for another time.
Right. A good question for a better writer than me to answer.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
But I
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It was all these weird telegraph things. Again, it was all, none of it made sense. And by the way, the force healing power. Again, the problem is when you make these stupid new powers that we haven't seen before, you start to go, well, wait a second. If they can do that, why didn't they save Qui-Gon Jinn when he got stabbed in the stomach with the lightsaber? Why didn't they save so-and-so? Like, it just, again, like, it didn't make sense. And honestly, it's like another thing late in the game, because we got, and this was all leading up to, frankly, this was what's-his-face self-sacrifice, which I knew they were going to do before. I swear to God, I'm positive if we go back to episodes where we talked about about The Last Jedi and how this one can possibly fix itself, I'm positive I said like half a dozen times, Kylo Ren is going to have to die because you can't kill Han Solo and live. And he's going to have to do it in some self-sacrificing way because, again, they got this little weird Romeo and Juliet thing going on with him and Rey for some reason. So by the time that happens and the kiss happens, really, I felt like that was so annoying at that point. Like, it was like, I know you guys have been pushing this idea. It never felt right. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, like in the scene in The Last Jedi when they're basically Skyping each other and she says, would you please put a shirt on? I'm like, where did the writer come from? Was he working on Nickelodeon movies before this? Like what annoying Disney Channel BS is that? Like, are you joking? So of course you knew that they were going to have to sort of like, follow that to its conclusion. And this was literally the only way they could have done it. So, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I feel like as I'm watching the movie and all I was doing, it was like somebody had been in a massive car crash, like a genius, surgeon has been in a massive car crash, like Doctor Strange maybe. He's in a serious car crash. All his bones are broken. He's paralyzed, etc. And then one day, after a lot of rehab, he can scribble in barely legible letters his own name. And you go, good for you. I feel like that's what watching this movie was like. I'm watching this, again, this dumpster fire that was dropped in J.J. Abrams' lap. And again, I'm so torn on who to blame for this. Well, actually, I blame Rian Johnson wholeheartedly. Like, he is the reason this thing got so fouled up. But honestly, I say to myself, but JJ still punted in the first one anyway. So like the story never really started. We literally, the first film did nothing but introduce characters. It literally did nothing other than that. And Wright, again, Wright checks that he planned to cash at some point, but then, Rian Johnson just burns the house down. So JJ's got to do something with this to salvage this. And again, that's what this was an exercise in. So again, I mean, if you're really going to judge this whole thing as a trilogy, as a coherent 3-part story, it's just hot garbage. And, and it really was frustrating because there were, like I said, there were moments in this film where I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, like, I'm kind of getting it. I'm getting what they're going for. And again, if they had just done this from the beginning, even the parts with the horses, riding across the Star Destroyers, I'm saying to myself, like, I should really hate this, but I don't. It's not bad. Well, first of all, I was like, so wait a minute. Are they not in space anymore? Like, are we no longer in space? Did we just decide that this is happening like in atmosphere someplace? And how are they all staying afloat, etc.? But I'm like, whatever. Again, I don't care anymore at this point. But the look of it, I was saying to myself, I'm saying, like, well, thank God they're not the stupid puppy horses from Last Jedi. Like, I thought, at least I thought the look of it was better. This kind of ragtag band of freedom fighters. I'm like, all right, I'm kind of on board with the spirit of it, I suppose. But again, it's just so stupid, so late in the day, and the premise is just dumb because, again, you had to sort of shoehorn some sort of a story in here.
Speaking of a story, one of the things I'm going to mourn with this trilogy is the extremely compelling idea of the child of Han and Leia turning to the dark side and then getting redeemed. Okay? What a great little story that would have been. I really wish I could have seen that movie. Didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that basically the son of a Skywalker and Solo redeemed by the daughter of a Palpatine could have been really cool. It could have been a really cool little twist in the world. But no, you had to go and screw the pooch on everything. You had to go and have some kind of weird, you know, here's the deal. This is why you guys need to talk to Mr. Feige, okay? And I'm going to even go further. You need to talk to Mr. Favreau, Mr. Furlani, and Miss Chow, okay? Who has directed most of the best episodes of The Mandalorian, which was written mostly by Mr. Favreau, and whose Star Wars history is best known by Mr. Furlani. Okay? These are the people you should go to, because they understand that when you're telling a story over multiple parts, that you can be self-contained, but it better have a thread that eases them together. This trilogy has no such thread. It is completely uneven. It goes from point A to point C for plot conveniences. The movie's plot conveniences move in a way like you're very much always mentioned and dead on point, Mr. Hulk from the Avengers movies. It is what it needs. The characters are what they need to be for this moment in time. There is no logical progression in any of these characters. It's the first movie I actually liked Rey because she showed weakness. She showed, vulnerability. Okay? She actually did something in this movie that made... It's like they super hyped her for the first two movies, and then they kind of brought her back down a little bit for this one, which I appreciated. Yeah. And I felt like, well, if you had introduced this character as that, I could have gotten behind that. But you didn't.
Yeah.
You shot for the moon for no other reason. Girl power. I don't know. I don't know what the heck the intention was, but whatever it was, there are things that they did right in this movie that just made me regret. Maybe this is how you should have started. Okay?
Yeah.
Maybe the first 20 minutes of this movie should have been how you started, not this other BS.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I agree with that, and yes, the fact that they actually did show, even the attempts to show weakness, like for example, when she lightning bolts the, there's problems on top of problems on top of problems, so that every time a scene comes up, I literally don't know which part to pick at first. The part when she lightning bolts the spaceship. First of all, I'm already sitting there going, wait a second. Now the two of them are so strong they can literally force giant spaceships around. Fine, whatever. Again, at this point, I'm already done. But then lightning bolts come out of her hands and blows up the spaceship. First of all, lightning bolts can do that now. Fine, whatever. But so then later, she's all beating herself up. Look what I did. I blew up the thing. I killed Chewie, which was another big flipping problem I got. So even later when she's kind of beating herself up, I'm kind of going like, now movie, you're trying to have it both ways, because again, okay, you're trying to show, look, we're making her fallible. She makes mistakes, but it really wasn't her fault, because who would have guessed lightning bolts was going to come out of her hand? So it was almost like they were trying to make her, perfect but not perfect, or vice versa. And by the way, oh, Chewie must have been on another transport. Thank good. What? There's one big spaceship there. You saw him get on that spaceship. And then
Jojo, I gotta stop you. There were two spaceships. I looked for that.
Is that right?
Yes, they're absolutely. Because I remember I was spoiled last month. So when I heard about the thing with Chewie happening, I was like, I better see freaking two spaceships in this damn scene. And yes, there were absolutely two spaceships there. 100%, because I was looking for it.
But
where the hell did the other spaceship go is what I want to know.
Right. I mean, right. It was shot in a way that I did not see a big spaceship, two of them right there. I mean, again, I'm looking at one. I saw one take off. The second one either took off first or it was still sitting on the ground. Like you said, where did it go? Yeah. How do you lose a spaceship? So I'm calling bullshit. Sorry.
You absolutely can call bullshit. But I just wanted to point out they actually did establish that there were two spaceships on the ground. They just didn't tell you what happened to the other spaceship after that first one blew up.
Yeah.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir, at my friends.
Speaking of blowing up, guess where we're at?
Well, that flew. That went really
I
fast.
told you, and we still haven't covered, because this movie is jam frickin' packed. Not necessarily in a good way, but it's still jam packed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's still some things, and oh boy, I'm not even 100% sure what my 4-year consideration is just yet.
Same here.
There is a scene in the movie Chicago. It's not one of Joe's favorite movies. We actually went to see the movie, Joe,
that.
my ex, and I, to see Chicago. There's a scene in the movie where a big thing had happened that really hurt the case, and the Richard Gere character, all of a sudden, like the announcer goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, a tap dance." And it's Richard Gere doing a tap dance while he's trying to legally work his way around the problem that's happening, that just happened on the screen. And as I was watching this movie, that scene came into my mind. Okay? Not because it was like a great scene. And actually, it wasn't a terrible scene because I never knew Richard Gere could also dance. And he actually worked very hard for that tap dance scene. And it was kind of impressive. But that's a whole story for another time. My point is this entire movie, from the moment it started, just felt like a giant tap dance. Okay? The reference to, why don't we just, do a bunch of Holdo maneuvers, and Poe is like, well, that was a 1 in a million shot, and that'll never work again.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay, that one line told me a hell of a lot about the predicament that this movie found itself in. And it found itself in a huge predicament because Rian Johnson decided, for whatever reason, that he was going to resolve all the questions from the first one by not resolving them. By being like, doesn't matter. And, this movie's trying to bring it back. And to the movie's credit, when it does actually take the time, it does a decent job of trying to make it fit. Not a great job, but honestly, one of my favorite cinematic writers is Steven Zaillian. He's written Saving Private Ryan and a bunch of other movies. He's one of my favorite writers, cinematic writers. He couldn't save this movie. I don't think anybody could have saved this movie. And when I went in with as low an expectation as I did, turns out I kind of enjoyed it with that low expectation. So if you go in with the right attitude, this is a relatively entertaining flick. And I gave it a 6 because of that. Because in some ways I did enjoy it. The fact that I was able to get emotional both over Carrie's death and then later when Maz gives Chewie the medal, I admit it, when she gave Chewie the frickin' medal, I got weepy. But for no reason, not because of the fan service of that scene, but because that was just a reminder of where this all started 42 years ago, and I was crying over the end, so to speak, and the mediocre ending that it had. I really, really wish they had just come up with a plan, laid out the entire trilogy in a way that made sense before anybody wrote a single damn thing and just gone with that. Because the potential of what they could have done that I saw in this movie, it hurts to think that we lost out on that. Because this movie showed there was potential.
Yeah, we are in very similar minds, my friend, and I'm reminded that, I've said it here before, that ironically, the prequel trilogy and this trilogy now both are hot messes, and ironically, I feel that the solutions are similar, but almost flipped upside down, whereas I wish the first film took George Lucas's ideas and then placed them in the hands of a capable screenwriter. In this trilogy, I wish they took George Lucas's ideas and put them in the hands of a capable screenwriter. I think without the presence of George Lucas, I feel like these things, again, are it was a scrambled mess. These directors, JJ and Ryan Johnson, should not have been left to their own devices in terms of writing. I think they can direct action. Well, I think J.J. Abrams can direct an action-packed film. I don't really care for his writing necessarily. And honestly, there was I like I said, I felt like there are moments in the film that I thought were very good, and moments in the film that I thought were abysmal. And again, I think that the like you said, the tap dance analogy was perfect. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That was a very apt comparison. And yes, this movie was one big long tap dance. And there were moments when I'm watching them trying to write themselves out of the holes that they dug for themselves. In the last one, like you said, oh, the hole don't move. Oh, that was a 1 in a million thing. The fact that Rose Tico got the Jar Jar treatment this time around. Like, I thought that was kind of funny. And frankly, I felt like this whole trilogy started out with The Force Awakens. I felt like somebody said to somebody, I don't care what you do with this film, just make sure people understand it's not the prequels. And I kind of felt like there was the same message in this one, right? It was basically, the message was, well, all right, well, now you got to make sure everyone knows this is not The Last Jedi. Whatever happened there, you got to do it different here because everyone hated that one. So again, you had a really weird dumpster fire to try to put out the best you could. And in some respects, they did it admirably. I thought they tried. But on the other hand, I was like, there's just too much that doesn't make any sense anymore because, again, you've come this far. You can't undo it all. So, I was right around a 6 as well, but I think I talked myself down to a 5. And as I said in my opening, again, because is it worth seeing? Again, if you like the first two, you should like this one, no problem. But again, if you saw the first two and are really hoping they pull a miracle, you're not going to get that, though. You'll probably be as entertained as you can possibly be, given the mess that it is. But, again, do not expect that this film does not get revived. This franchise does not get revived like some of the characters do.
Well put, my man. I like that. How about Who Asked You?
There's so many things to choose from. There's one moment in the film that I really kind of went, I think this is where you're losing me. And then there's an overall arching problem that we didn't talk about. I'll start with the micro, the blade that they take to the edge of the water, and the little thing pops out the bottom, and in Goonies fashion, outlines exactly where this thing is on the ship. What? What the hell was that? That made no sense. I thought the whole point was that this was some ancient relic, but apparently it was pieced together at some point after Return of the Jedi, after this thing had found its resting place, and built by someone who just happened to be standing on the exact same spot on the ledge as Rey, but I suppose it's because of the Force or something. That was honestly kind of the moment in the film where I was like, all right, I think you guys you're scrambling to put a story together and it ain't working. And again, feeling more like Raiders, but frankly Goonies than Star Wars. But that wasn't really the biggest problem I walked away with. The biggest problem I had as I contemplated this film was, you mean to tell me that the Emperor got it on with someone and had a baby? I thought the whole point of the prequel trilogies was that nobody has sex with anybody ever. It's for some reason forbidden and no one does it. The more I thought about that, I was like, wait a second. The Emperor was way, way older than Anakin Skywalker. And Anakin Skywalker had children at the end of Sith, and they would grow up to be I couldn't get my head around how that all worked. How does that make any sense? And then I think that's when it hit me. I'm like, no. She's Palpatine's granddaughter? Like, and I know that they were desperately trying to, I mean, frankly, you guys should have just watched the How It Should Have Ended version of Last Jedi and just followed what they did. Like, I get the idea that you're trying now desperately to retcon this whole Mary Sue problem and figure out why Rey is so ridiculously powerful. Well, there were other ways you could have gone. This whole, the granddaughter of Palpatine, no. I do not see Palpatine having a wife. I mean, you're more or less establishing in this that he's basically Dracula. Like, he's just a monster. He takes human form if he pleases, I guess. I thought the whole point of this movie is telling me that he is really just more of an idea than an actual person. So the idea that he had offspring doesn't make any sense to me.
I love that that's your sticking point.
Right, of all the weird things, but honestly, it was the one that kind of transcended normal weird into a whole different level of weird.
I've got a couple. That's good, but I got a couple. The dead speak just made me shudder for all the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Chewie's dead. Just kidding. C-3PO lost his memory. Just kidding. They meet up with Zorly Bliss. I hate you, Poe. You're the worst piece of scum on the planet. I should just blow your brains out right here, right now. 5 minutes later. Here, take the only thing I have to get off this planet.
Because you're a good guy.
Because you're a good guy that I was just going to blow your brains out for. But you know what really, really irks me? Why the hell did the Millennium Falcon leave a skid mark on the planet? The thing is a hover, take off, and touch down. It doesn't land like an airplane.
Yeah.
It doesn't land like even if it's like, oh, well, the landing gear is out. It's like, it doesn't, okay, great. It goes up and down. Did you not see when they took off from Mos Eisley, especially the special editions? It goes straight up. And when it lands, it goes straight down. It doesn't fly like a plane.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, yes, that's absolutely true. And I couldn't figure out when that happened. I'm like, they made a casual reference afterwards. Oh, rough landing. Oh, I've seen worse. Oh, I've seen better. I mean, the banter was, yeah, I know you're talking about.
They fly now. They fly now.
Yeah. But by the way, I forgot a doozy.
Oh, yeah?
Hyper skipping? What the hell? He would go into hyperspace, pop out, but it wasn't like he would pop. Like, it wasn't like he was going just further through space. Like, it wasn't like he would go to hyperspace, come out of it in space, and then go into hyperspace, come out of it in space. They would pop out in these different worlds, like on the surface of different planets. I'm sitting there watching this going, what the hell is happening?
I'm going to forgive them that one, because that was an attempt to explain how they get away without the Empire catching up to them, or the First Order, or the Final Order. Oh God, that's such a ridiculous name.
Totally.
Because as you saw in The Last Jedi, it was established that they have the ability to track people through hyperspace now. So this was their way of trying to explain, oh, well, we're just doing random jumps here, there, and everywhere. It's just so coincidental that they happen to always run into the middle of places and having to do impressive piloting stuff. I understand why they did it. It's just still ridiculous.
I'm like, what is this, Guardians of the Galaxy now? What the heck is happening?
Guardians of the Galaxy did it better.
Of course.
Now for the hard part, my man. For your consideration.
Oh, boy. I'm not sure. You know what? There was a couple decent. Again, I kind of felt like the parts that I was enjoying were the parts again that were the younger generation with the older generation. Which again, when I was watching that, I kept saying this is exactly what they should have done from the get-go. Why are we getting this in the third movie? Finally, I mean, it makes no. I mean, you should have started with this. I mean, seriously, even in the prequels couldn't figure that out to make likable characters. Yes, I don't know. I was really hoping for. I don't know. I thought Han Solo's appearance was weird. You know, again, like, you're not a Force ghost? I know, I'm a memory. Oh, like that. You know, the dialogue was so on the nose and explaining everything all the time, constantly trying to fix things in the dialogue. Oh, wait, okay, good things. Come on. I don't know. I frankly think that it's gonna sound ridiculous, but I feel like we finally saw a little more R2-D2 in this movie than we did in the last two.
I think we did.
Like, how did you botch that in the last few? I mean, again, I know you got to sell your toys, but for crying out loud, I mean, this, like, I feel like that was one of the things that we sort of learned early on, that the whole trilogy was somehow from the point of view of the two droids. But I mean, they dropped that on this too. I mean, this was such a mess. How am I giving this a 5 when I can't think of anything I really liked? Visually, it was good. I mean, you know, the visuals, just like the last one, were good. And, yeah, I'm stuck. Wait, what am I saying? Here we go. Lando was great. He was really good. I was glad. I was very impressed with, I mean, honestly, I was kind of shocked at how he looked like not a lot of time had gone by. He looked pretty good, and I thought he was holding it together. Yeah. I liked his little pep talk at the end, frankly. I liked when they said, how did you do it? We did it together. I liked. I thought that was good. So there you go. Thank you. Man, I thought I was gonna have anything.
That's not bad. That's good. That's a good one. Believe it or not, I'm gonna go with the C-3PO redemption.
Okay.
Because remember, one of the last movies we watched was Attack of the Clones, where C-3PO had his wacky adventures in the factory.
Yeah.
And the fact, and he has this one line when, you know, they're in the quicksand hole. They're all in the sinkhole, and Poe is up, and he's like, you know, Ray, Finn. It's like, you didn't call my name, sir, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
I laughed out loud at that, and I was like, you know what? That's what you're supposed to use C-3PO for.
Yeah.
He's kind of the straight man comedy guy.
Yeah.
And I felt he was utilized perfectly. So I'm giving it to him. I'm giving it to Anthony Daniels for his last roll around as C-3PO, because I felt like he was effective. And, okay, fine. I didn't for a second actually believe that C-3PO was going to lose his memory, you know, permanently. Not for 1 second. That was never anything. But I felt he handled that very, very nicely. So I'm just going to give it to him. I kind of, in deference to you, I kind of liked the scene with Han and Ben. But to me, 3PO just was, you know, the best part.
I'll give you that. I didn't hate the scene with Ben and Han Solo. I just kind of thought, it was mildly annoying because it was, again, like, look, we're doing the conversation we had in the first one, but with a different outcome. Okay,
well, at least.
I got that. Yeah, exactly. I got it. And honestly, I just thought, it was annoying that they actually said the words, you're not a ghost. Yeah, I know. I'm a memory. Okay, I get it. Don't need it all spelled out. And speaking of spelling it out, the part when they do lift the X-Wing out of the water and they play a couple bars from Empire when Yoda did it.
Yeah.
I was like, when that happened, I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, very cool. They're playing the theme from that. Okay. And then I'm like, and then they keep going. I'm like, oh, all right, I got it. And then they keep going. I'm like, I got it. Like they play like, okay, guys, you should have kept it real subtle. At this point, am I supposed to be impressed that somebody's lifting up an X-Wing? Apparently, you can move whole gigantic spaceships and blast them with lightning and bring people back to life and et cetera, et cetera. You can transport your physical things. Like, is this even supposed to be impressive anymore? Don't overplay it.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny. The Force will be with you.
Always.
Well, that ends our review of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, although I'm pretty sure we could have gone another half hour. Easily.
I agree with you. I feel like we can easily just keep on going because honestly, there was so many parts that just kind of left me going like, huh?
Honestly, I'd rather we didn't, because I kind of feel like the more we talk about it, the more we're going to convince ourselves it was a lot worse than this. And the truth of the matter is, we walked out of it both entertained, and I guess that's all you can ask for a movie that you had no expectations for.
Well, that is true, but honestly, I kind of was already prepping myself for the idea. I hope I don't pull another Last Jedi, because I walked out of that one feeling like, yeah, I know something wasn't right about this, but the visuals were good, and I think I gave it like a 7, and by the next week, I was wishing I gave it a 2. So I was sort of saying to myself, I was even wondering, like, should I even watch it again before we review it? But who's got the time? But
who the hell's got the time? Jesus.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm kind of curious to see, like, is this going to be another Last Jedi where the more we talk about this and the more time goes past, if our opinions are going to get better, worse, or whatever?
I'm pretty sure it'll go down.
Yeah, I think so too, but probably not by a lot, because I kind of feel like, again,
not as drastic as The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I think.
Because I think we both know, again, you can't even penalize this one that much because, again, all of the checks had been written in the first 2 films, and this was just their scramble to cash them. So there's only so much they could do, so there's only so much you can beat up on this one. But anyway, we will see.
Yes, and we will see, because next week, ladies and gentlemen, Joe and I are going to be covering Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. We're heading back there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
we got an interesting couple of episodes. We got some catching up to do. We've got Welcome to the Jungle, then we've got The Next Level, then we got to do our annual Christmas episode, which this year is Lethal Weapon, and then it's our top 10 lists, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, it is. That should be interesting.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see what makes our biggest disappointments, but we will see. But yes, thank you, sir. I'm
Anytime,
glad we
my
had
friend.
a chance to talk about this, and we hope you all listen, because we're recording this on the 23rd of December, so I'm just going to say it now. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, my brother.
And Merry Christmas, my friend.
See you next week. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube for spoiler-free reviews of new releases. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page on patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.
Force jump! Force speed!
Take this!
Force push!
You shouldn't know that!
What?
You're an amateur without training!
Are you crying?
No. Oh! No! You beautiful idiot! I hate you! You sit around watching an old guy milking a space walrus, and all of a sudden, you're a Jedi Master!
Don't listen to him, Ray. is just jealous of your new Jedi powers.
You would say that.
Father?
You jumped around the jungle with a green mutant leprechaun on your back, and all of a sudden, you can beat me? I mean, you used to be a moisture farmer. That's not even real farming!
You are conflicted.
Conflicted? Please. Do you know what I did at the Jedi Temple? To those little Padawans?
Good. Let the hate flow through you.
Wait, weren't you dead?
Who knows? I'm just trying to sell movie tickets. Now, my apprentice, strike her down.
I don't take orders from you! I'm the supreme leader!
Sure you are, Ben.
I'll show you guys. How am I supposed to do art on my helmet now? Knights of Ren, get her!